Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles, and we are here today with the one and only, one of my favorites, Elise Rigney, who's also, along with me, at Mile High Altitude, where we anticipate you will be in September of 2023, Mile High 11. Yes, these go to 11. And Dr. Elise Rigney, besides myself and Rochelle being incredible fans of her, owns Impact Chiropractic, Family Health Center in Fort Collins. She focuses on adjustment and subluxation, has an amazing team. She graduated from Northwestern and then now runs also Chiro Intensive, which is a phenomenal mentoring program and is one of our Mile High MCs. We'll also be hosting Mile High Philosophy Night in just a couple days. Thank you for taking time to be with us today, Elise Rigney.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. This is always fun to get to hang out with you too, and just to be able to talk to our Mile High peeps too.
Yep, absolutely. And it's really good to have the community of chiropractic growing in Colorado. And people need that around the world, have community and connection with fellow chiropractors that share values. And that's why we're going to be doing Philosophy Night in just a couple days, April 21st, up at your office. And
Yep.
yeah, I'm super excited about that. And that's one of the great things about Mile High is a community connection, camaraderie, that people get to see old friends that they haven't seen because they've been in their offices taking care of people. So I know that's one of the things that you love about it too.
Oh my gosh, yes. And when I first moved to Colorado in 2012, we had Epoch back then. Do you remember that? And
I
so
do.
we every single month had a philosophy night. And I feel like that just helped me so much as a young doc, as a new doc. And also I met some of my closest friends that way. So and my closest friends are chiropractors, and I didn't know them until I moved here. So it wasn't even like straight from chiro school friends. So I miss that. And I just love that Mile High is really reigniting that community again for us. And so on Friday night, we have Dr. David Kalowski. So he was one of the OGs in my Epoch too. So I'm excited to have him back. And then he's like a humble giant. So if you haven't heard him, you're going to be in for a treat. And then we have Dr. Jane Brewer, who is like freaking brilliant. I'll say I already know she's gonna be bringing the philosophy, but I already know she's gonna be bringing the science too. And so I'm excited for everyone to hear her too. And then we have RJ Galinas, who is our president for the CCA right now. And I think he's going to bring some old frat bro rugby, yellow little energy. It's going to be, he'll fire us up for sure. And then we have the one and only Dr. Danny Knowles, who I don't know if you're going to close it out that night, but you're always like the icon. So I'm excited to have all four of you there, and just for everyone who gets to hear you guys.
I'm really grateful. I'm so thrilled about it. And I'm really grateful you mentioned that about Epoch. And then we'll get to interview you. I have to tell you that Epoch was really the impetus or spark for me to reignite Mile High, is going to that first meeting, because it was phenomenal. The energy, we had a Colorado Chiropractic Wellness Alliance, and they had monthly meetings for years and years and conventions, and it kind of died out or fizzled. And when I attended that Epoch meeting and met you and the other docs, I was like, okay, we have to do this again. And I forgot. You guys remind me how much I forgot doing that because I got busy in life with kids. And that's what happened with chiropractors. We get busy in life with kids. We forget that we really need to have community and connection.
And philosophy.
Right.
We need philosophy. Like that's where, because you had asked me to speak a couple times at this, and I'm like, I need to be dipped right now. Like you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And so it's like, all right, now, like I want to be inspired by others, and I know we have these like hidden giants up here, and I get to speak all over, but I just, I'm excited to hear the people that we have speaking, and I just feel like we've got the best lineup. So yeah, I think philosophy is, you can start to hear chiropractors notice like their vision is maybe not as clear. Their team doesn't know their whole vision, and their team doesn't fully understand chiropractic philosophy. You might have people who've been with you for years who do, but like for me, I have some new team members, and I'm like, this is for my team too. This isn't just for the docs. This is, but it's for me selfishly. This is for me too. And Epoch always was too. It was like, it's like going to church. Like you just need to be like reignited sometimes, refueled, see things from a different perspective because of the way someone spoke it. And so it's so needed.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agreed so much. And so, since you mentioned philosophy,
Yeah.
let's share a little bit. What has been your journey to get closer to chiropractic philosophy compared to where you started? Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. It's interesting because I actually feel like my philosophy, well, I was a CA before becoming a chiropractor. And so it changed my whole healthcare paradigm, just learning above, down, inside out philosophy when I was a CA. And it was like, oh, I just like viewed everything from that model. Even if it came to like taking a supplement, I'm still taking something from the outside and putting it in, so things that are healthy, I'd still have to like think about. And so I felt like I was really grounded in universal the universal principle. I don't know, before I was even in chiropractic school.
Mhm.
Then I go to Northwestern. And so, maybe not the smartest choice when it comes to philosophy. However, when you already have purchased your first green book, or actually I think I was gifted my first one, and then I got a blue book, and then you get to chiropractic school, like you think everyone's going to be like you, and then you realize, oh, I need to like actually stand up for this thing. I didn't realize, so I had to start the Green Books Club in chiropractic school. And then it was kind of interesting because Trent Schneid, how do you say his last name? Schneidecker? I always say it wrong. You know what I'm talking about. He spoke at Mile High last year.
Yeah.
So he was a year ahead of me in school. Same with Lona Cook. Lona Cook was a year ahead of me, maybe 2 years ahead of me. Maybe they're both 2 years ahead of me, but we were in school at the same time. And I got into Green Book Club. I started it in like T2 maybe. And so Trent, I remember being very into blue books. And so like he would have these like discussions with me about how blue books are better than green books. And I was like, I didn't know that. Like you almost get, like back then it was like almost this ego thing, right? With philosophy. Yeah. And then are you gonna pull them all out? Yep. And then I remember finding out about Stevenson, and then I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't. Yeah, it was just kind of funny when you get into the readings, but we would read like it was Bible study. That's how we do Green Books. We'd open it up and we'd be like, I don't know what the F he's talking about here, but let's be philosophical and dig into this. And we would just have open discussions. So I feel like Chiro school like grounded me even more. And then when I became a doctor, that's when I opened up Impact. I opened with 0 patients, like I didn't purchase practice or anything. And so I remember at one point I went to a seminar and someone said, if you have time between patients, like, and I did have time between patients as much as I wanted to be like full right away. I had time and I would go stir crazy at that time. So I would either was it Sig who would say, who would say, like, people would say, how many people are you seeing? And he'd say, 1,000 people a week.
He would say that. That was he who said that.
Yeah. And then he really, like, the numbers on the books were like 700. But then he'd go and he would be adjusting between patients. Right. And so he's like, those are people, like, he's like, I'm not technically lying. And he'd like get up to where his numbers would then hit there. It was like he'd speak it and it would happen. And so I would either do that, but to be honest, there's only so long you can do that when you're a new doc until you kind of like start to, watch your mindset go down. So then what I would do is I'd have a green book sitting, because I'm like, don't go check social media. That was my thing. Like, don't go check social media between patients because it's going to get your head into a different space, right? Like you need to be present, you need to be focused, even if no one is technically in here. So I'd have a green book open and I would just go and I'd leave it open and I'd just take off back where I was. And so that really helped me the first year in practice, I'd say, until I literally was back to back and busy and all of that. So, and now it's just been, that's kind of been if we're talking like chiropractic philosophy and diving into the books more so, that's been mostly my journey. I haven't done any of like the diplomate program or anything like that. But then EPOC was started right back then. So the beginning of opening, it was like 2012. I got in on EPOCs and we did them for a couple of years. So that's how I feel like I got really intertwined with like kind of figuring out which speakers really like motivated me and reignited me, helped me find my purpose again. Cause I think you always need that redirection. I shouldn't say no one, but like for me, I'm only human and you get distracted by life. You get distracted by other things happening and like fires that you're putting out where all of a sudden you're like, wow, why am I doing this? We got to go back to the why. We got to go back to the legacy attached to all of this too.
Right.
And so I was just sharing this story though with my one of my like she's a massage therapist, but she does a lot of other body work. So one of my body workers, I was in with a session with her yesterday, and she was asking me about like readings. So, like you go and get a reading, like a medium,
Right.
you can get a card reading, that sort of stuff. We're in Colorado, so you and I are used to all this. we're used to all of that, right? And,
right.
And you're networked, so you've got all energy all around you. So, she was asking me like, "Do you know of any good readers?" And I told her about my first like reading experience. I was actually at we have a holistic fair that is hosted up here, and we were doing spinal checks, nervous system checks at it. And I was like, I've never had a reading, and so I'm like, I'm gonna walk around and just see if I resonate with anyone. And I sat down with one woman, and I had 20 minutes with her, and she said she didn't know I was a chiropractor, and she said, you have a female chiropractor or a female in chiropractic who has since passed, who is guiding you right now. And she said her name is Mabel. And I was like, what?
Oh,
yeah. And so there's just, I don't know. I don't even know how I got to this point from your question, but it's just interesting. Like when you start to dive into the history and, you can think of like having little angels, or you could create a board of directors and put like, right now I had to actually buy a boombox for our doctor's office because I have my Reggie tapes and my SIG CDs. And I was like, I don't have any way to play these. So now what we're trying to do is just pop something in and play it in the office when we have 30 minutes before patients and stuff. But yeah.
That's so funny. That's awesome.
I'm sure I could convert them. I'm sure I can purchase the audio out there, but there's something about like I used to listen to those CDs when I was driving to school and driving to work and all of that. But
oh yeah, I have a couple drawers and boxes full of all that stuff because I used to go to the Sherman College Library, and I would borrow audio cassettes because they had a lending library of every lyceum and kinds of things, and I'd borrow them and I would copy them, because you had dual cassette decks, and then I would return them. And that was my to and from school every single day and anytime I was in the car. So, and I still have all those, but you have to feed that, and that's why philosophy night, programs are so important. Now I know you're super passionate about growing female leaders in the chiropractic profession.
Yes.
Can you speak to why that's important?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for a number of reasons, I'm passionate about growing all leaders, right? But it started as Impact has grown. We've brought on all of these doctors, and they've happened to all be women. I am not against hiring men into my office. I'll just say that. I've had male CAs. But what makes me passionate about it is you probably remember, and people remember this stat from, it was 2013 or 2014. So you hear people say over half of the students graduating right now are women, right? I will take credit for being the person who collected that stat in 2013. I called every school. Oh, wow. And I asked I don't actually know. We need to update this stat because I don't know what enrollment is at. This is 10 years ago. I called every single school and got the numbers and the demographic information. And so I was the one who, when I did my first big girl speech in Atlanta at LCW, it was their main conference. I had that stat in it. And that was when kind of the lean in movement was going on within culture and everything. Right. And then Parker had also had an old study that came out. And I mean, when I say old, I mean, it's probably got to be 20 years ago. So not crazy old, but it was something where they came out with the amount of women who after 10 years of graduating chiropractic school were no longer in the profession. And it was a significant drop. I won't quote it. But I don't know. I thought it
was sizable.
It was over 50%. So it was very sizable. And so I was like, well, what is happening? And then I come back from that conference and find out I'm pregnant. And so that was okay, I got to figure this out. Kathy Colby was actually one of the first people I told I was pregnant. She was out here. I had her out here for a philosophy LCW thing. So right after that event. And so I told her, and then I was like, how do you do this? And she's married to a chiropractor. And so she's she, had more support than I had in my office. Right. And so I'm like, how do I meet women who aren't married to chiropractors? Love y'all who are married, all you chiro couples. This isn't a dig. This isn't a dig on you guys, but I also, there's a lot of us who come out and they're not married to chiropractors, right? So
Right.
it's not like we have someone in the practice, which I also don't envy you guys, because okay, you go off and have a baby and then dad has to go back and see, like everyone deserves the time they want with their children, right? There's got to be a way to do it. So I just taught myself a system and made this all happen so that women wouldn't need to choose between home, family, and chiropractic.
Mhm.
And so I think that's what made me really passionate, was some of those statistics. And then also over 85% of chiropractic patients are women, right? So there is this, I'm in more pediatric prenatal, I have my CACCP. And so in our offices, there is so much that comes out. I'm sure you guys see this too, especially with network conversations that might not seem chiropractic related right away, right? But chiropractic is the model, or like what am I trying to say? The catalyst. This is what helps them process, right? So you get conversations around trauma. We have conversations around women who miscarry, and some, secrets that come out that, like generational wounds that have been happening in these families. And people are stopping those patterns in their families because they're able to integrate all of this within their nervous system through chiropractic care. And so having all of these women in our office, it's an opportunity for me to talk about connecting and how to connect with those patients, but also have the empathy and compassion, and use, sometimes being a woman, we can use our personal experiences through birth and through miscarrying and through what we've been through to be able to just really impact our patients and impact our community. And so, not that that's only women who can do that, but it's something where I feel like some opportunities or strengths in being a woman that haven't always been showcased, right? So there's like multiple parts of that passion there. You can be a phenomenal mom and a present mom and a business owner and a chiropractor and make this all work without burnout. Yes, it's easy to get burnt out. We all can get burnt out, though. That doesn't matter on our gender or role or identity or anything like that. But I just think this was missing, in a sense, if that many people were leaving the profession too.
Right.
And it can go back to like people not being able to make it financially because of what the line was like, or what like the general way of treating associates was like back then too, and that's been something that I know I have played a huge role in our profession, is changing how we treat our associates, how we mentor, how we lead, how we guide, how we pay, all of that. So there's different parts to all of that, like when we get those stats, but I'm someone who, when I get a stat, it definitely affects me, like you just hear certain ones and you're like, I can affect that. I can change that. What does that look like? Yeah.
That's so phenomenal. And was some of that the impetus for Chiro Intensive?
Yeah, definitely. So I don't want to say wanted, but I never saw myself doing any sort of like practice management program or consulting. And I still am like, I don't do one-on-ones. I just posted the other day on my stories. I was like, when people ask me why I don't do one-on-ones, I'll politely like come back and say, oh, I'm just not at a place in my life where I can do it. And then I said, what I really mean is, and they show like kids with a cowbell in the background. And I'm like, I cannot get on calls. Like the anxiety I get getting on a Zoom call or anything that's going to be important when my children are around, I'm like, you're going to have a naked child behind me on a Zoom call. And so I'm like, I can't do consulting. But yeah, that's Chiro Intensive. That's definitely what it came from. So many people asking me like, how are you doing this? And we still have like all of our docs who are here have stayed since I hired them. I don't know how to say that. No one's left. Laura and I went and opened up another office together. So she was with me for 7 years. Are we going on 8 in June, I think? And but besides that, yeah, everyone's retained and everyone's amazing and we're growing together. And yeah, so it's just been all the messages that I was getting, like, how do you do this? And I was like, I don't have the capacity to I want to help people, but I didn't have the capacity to get on calls. So Chiro Intensive was a great opportunity. And people were looking for like, I just want help with this main thing, or like how to scale really is the main thing. And scaling happens like within some of the structure of the and functions of the office and how you hire and how you train and all of that with associates, but also with like wealth and building wealth, tax strategies. Real estate is part of scaling, like there's ways that I'm able to scale the wealth outside of chiropractic in a way. Some of it can all be in chiropractic too, but yeah.
Right. Well, and that's also what our experience is. The emails and texts and messages keep coming in asking for help, and we respond to people, and there was like, okay, we're spending so much time doing this that we have to somehow focus it. So I'm glad you took that step. Right. It's a really, and people in our profession need guidance because they don't necessarily get, they need guides that are really there for them, because not enough that they learn in the education process.
Especially with business ownership. And there's so much. Every day I'm learning. I'm like, oh, I thought everyone knew this. It's like us with chiropractic. There's so often we're like, oh, this isn't natural to people. People don't, understand, like when you have a medicine cabinet, are you healthier with medicine in there or none in there? Wow, this isn't common sense. Right. And so it's the same thing with running a business. I love business. I love entrepreneurism. I just got invited to Richard Branson's island, actually. So like I do get a lot of business skills outside of our profession. And then chirointensive is my way of bringing them into our profession and kind of innovating some old school things are great to keep. And then some things we just have to innovate with the times and modify and kind of up level too. So that's been my course of action for doing that within our profession too, but doing it in a quick and easy way where it's not, a forever thing.
So love it. So absolutely love it. And if people want to learn more about Chiro Intensive, how do they do that? Where do they do that?
Yeah, chirointensive.com. We don't start our next round again until September. So we've got some time. So you can go check it out. And we just do it once a year.
Okay. Well, September, right around Mile High time. So that's perfect. So
yes.
Yeah. Super exciting. So now that being said, September, we're going to see you and lots of people in September at Mile High. What do you love about Mile High?
Okay, there's so much I love about Mile High. I feel like every year I'm like, it's the family. It's coming back to your chiro family, right? Mm-hmm. And it's that we do bring our families there too. I have my kids in the background and in the back. Well, kind of in the back. Last year they were kind of in the middle. But they are around. So it's fun having kids there, but it's the chiro family of connecting with your other chiropractic brothers and sisters, and then also just being reignited, dipped again in the philosophy, in the science, and our speakers this year too. I feel like they're bringing a good variety in that as well. We've got some of like the science whizzes out there, some of the philosophy, like Simon. I'm so excited that he's coming. If you guys haven't, Simon Senzen, that's how you say his last name, right?
Right.
Senzen. Yeah, I used to listen to some of his podcasts too. I think it was podcasts, or maybe he just has audio stuff on his website.
It's on his platform, the
like membership. Yeah, he's brilliant. And so and I feel like we haven't had him on the stage for a few years, right? So this is going to be a great opportunity for those who, especially like younger docs, newer Colorado docs, or newer docs coming. I shouldn't say Colorado. Everyone should come. Fly in. It's Denver. It's very easy to get to us. But this will be a great opportunity for them to hear him too. So some new and returning OGs to the stage this year.
We have a phenomenal lineup. I haven't announced. You don't even know some of the ones that are going to be there. It's going to be pretty amazing. And we haven't lined up the breakout groups yet either. And that was a big plus. What did you enjoyed that we have the breakout groups?
Yes. Yeah. Breakout was fun last year because we had a variety. Every year we have breakouts of some sort, but we kind of had them themed last year in a sense. Like if you wanted to go do a pediatric breakout group, we had Ian, we had our I loved the one that I got to host, of course, which I had. We had a full room. It was hot. It got hot in there. That's how full it was. People were it was literally standing room only. But I had Nona David, Courtney Gowan, Lauren Brunswick, and myself, and we just did a full Q&A on, I think it was mostly focused around like marketing and social media and that sort of stuff. But it got into people asking us questions about inner child work and stuff. So, sometimes things go where you're not expecting them to, but exactly where they need to go. So the breakouts were amazing because you can go and you can do technique breakouts. You can do more businessy breakouts. Just kind of depends. So I'm excited to see what we set up for this year too.
It's going to be amazing. And we're so excited to have you as an MC. It's been such a joy for you to be part of that. How has that been for you?
It's been really fun. I mean, I've gone to every single Mile High. So I went as an attendee. Sometimes I spoke. And then once I became an MC, I think it just has allowed me to even get to know more chiropractors that way too. And it's fun because I get to be, have a hand in getting to help with some of this and getting to help as you search for, who we should bring in and that sort of stuff too. So it's exciting. It really is.
So we'll be wrapping up in just a little bit. However, I'd like to ask you one last question. What recommendation do you have for students or new docs, first year docs, like in school and first year out of school in terms of practice?
So new docs who are or students still in school and new docs first year out of practice.
Yeah.
So any tips? Do you mean like business, philosophy, anything?
Whatever is your recommendation.
I mean, I would say get involved locally. First of all, get to know the chiropractors in your town, in your area, your region. And then if there's anything being offered in your area, make sure that you're going to that. I think that is what kept me motivated and keeps you excited too. And then as often as you can get to events like Mile High, I know there's always excuses that can pop up, especially when you're new and at that time you feel like money's really tight and all of that, but there's ways too. You can get crafty, you can get creative. We have a Mile High fund too. So don't be afraid to ask for help if it's going to get you to a place that is going to help you get to an even better place in mindset, in skill set, in life, and in abundance really too. So sometimes it's like you have to get over that hurdle and come to things like Mile High. And it might be a stretch to get there, but then once you're there, it's going to just catapult you forward. So I think that'd be my big advice is like trying to get involved in whatever way possible and staying grounded in the principle and making connections with other chiropractors. There's no need to have any scarcity within chiropractic. I really feel like I haven't had that. And that's been a gift to me is I don't have scarcity. I think there's abundant opportunity for multiple chiropractors on every single street. You and I practice in probably some of the most saturated towns. I'd say you and Rochelle and myself are probably in some of the top 10 in the United States. I'd say saturated chiropractic. Well, I guess where all the chiro schools are probably the top, but then after that, there's a chiro, on every block here. And it's amazing. Like what a gift for our community. It's yeah.
Instead of the lack attitude, which was when I first came here, several people that I looked as mentors said to me, you sure you want up here? They're open up here. There's so many chiropractors, you're going to fail. And I was so upset because that's not in my consciousness, and chiropractors need to be able to support each other and tell them you can do it. And, So I'm so glad that that's your consciousness. And it's really the consciousness that we, put out relative to Mile High and we want for our state, more of. So thank you for.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So come to Mile High.
Yes, look forward to be there. Looking for all of you be there. You know where else you want to be in September, riseuptomilehigh.com. You can grab receipts for yourself, your team, students. Again, Elise, thank you so much for taking some of your time to join us on the podcast. And we're so looking forward to having you as returning as an MC this year. And thank you for all your contributions to chiropractic overall and in the state of Colorado.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to you and Rochelle too for your heart and your soul and your time and energy and financial abundance that goes into this. It's like you guys are really making an impact in chiropractic and for chiropractors too, among honestly the world. You really are. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. And we as we say to everybody on our podcast, we have to keep changing spines, lives, and minds with chiropractic. So we look forward to seeing people in September. And remember, these go to 11. We'll see you at Mile High 11, riseuptomilehigh.com.